It was a night of heavyweight delights. The heavyweights were on full display. Tom Aspinall gets it done over Andrei Arlovsky. Chris Daukaus gets it done over the Boa Constrictor Alexei Oleinik. And Derek Lewis gets it done in a spectacular knockout over Curtis Blaydes in last night's UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Lewis. Hello and welcome to the Golden Octagon MMA channel. I am Matt Anderson. On the right side of your screen, we have Dorian Rose. This is episode number 8 for all of you out there watching. We appreciate you tuning in. How are you doing today, Dorian?
We're doing good, man. That was a heck of a display from the heavyweights last night, and man, I was still buzzing from the Derek Lewis knockout this morning, so I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
Definitely. A crazy night of fights, super entertaining, almost all finishes for the most part. There's a few here and there that didn't go to a finish, but I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on today's show before we get started. So up first, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk about Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis, the fight itself. Me and Dorian are going to exchange our thoughts on that, and then we're going to move down just to the rest of the card. Any other fights on the card that you want to talk about, standouts, anything like that, and then we're going to talk about the referees, and the referees in specific. These guys, some of them are good, some of them are bad. You tend to know the ones' names that are doing bad, and Herb Dean is starting to be on that list. He keeps popping up. But anyway, we will move down to this upcoming weekend's card, UFC Fight Night, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Cyril Gane, and then we will just be talking about any other fight news and talk aside from that. Before we get started though, if you guys wouldn't mind, please leave a thumbs up on this video. It really helps us out. Show us that you enjoy what we're doing. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel yet, what are we doing? What are they doing, Dorian? Come on now, help us out. Subscribe to the channel. But that's all that we have before we get started, so let's jump into this. Up first on today's show, Dorian, Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blaydes, man. This fight was going to go one of two ways. Either Curtis Blaydes was going to impose his wrestling over a 5-round main event just over and over, or Derek Lewis was going to do what he did, land that one single massive shot and starched Curtis Blaydes. My man was sleeping before he hit the ground. All of his limbs were out straight. I know you're chomping at the bit to give me your thoughts on this fight, so let me know what you think on last night's main event.
Man, that was a scary knockout by Derek Lewis, hitting Curtis Blaydes the way he did. I really liked Curtis Blaydes actually starting the way that he did. I know that coming into the fight, he had said going into the Alexander Volkov fight, he thought he could wrestle for all 25 minutes. And he said in the 5th round that he was so gassed in that fight because all he did was wrestle. He was basically scared that he could lose that fight if Volkov landed a good shot. So he basically just laid and prayed in the 5th round. And I think he was conserving a lot of his energy early so that way he wouldn't be in that state of mind come the later rounds. And he was just going to stay out of danger. And he was actually doing pretty good with his stand-up. He was landing some good jabs, Curtis Blaydes was. Curtis Blaydes was landing some good jabs. He even landed a few good leg kicks there towards the end of the first. And it seemed like Curtis Blaydes actually won the first round off of the striking. And Derek Lewis, he had started really slow. You could tell that he was just waiting for that shot. And I know he said in his post-fight press conference that he wasn't really feeling it too much. And you can kind of see it when he started off. You could just see that all he wanted to do was take Curtis Blaydes' heads off. And we know he's capable of doing that, but a lot of times he's a little bit more technical, or he could be more of a brawler. But he was just more reserved tonight or last night. But it definitely played out in his favor. And the bad part is that, like you said, it would go one of two ways. Curtis Blaydes would go for the takedown and either, wrestle him for 5 rounds, or Derek Lewis is going to get the knockout. But Curtis Blaydes probably won the first round, and he won the first round because of his striking. He only attempted 1 takedown in the first round, and then in the second round, I believe he only attempted 2. And then that second one that he attempted was the one he got knocked out by. So it's crazy to think that he's actually going to his ace in the hole in wrestling, and he ends up getting knocked out from it. And, man, for Derek Lewis, I mean, that was the most perfect timing to time that uppercut as soon as Curtis Blaydes was shooting in, because he knew, even though he wasn't shooting as often as he anticipated, he knew that he was going to, and he had that uppercut. You can see when Curtis Blaydes dipped in, he just had a quick wind up with it before he came up and just caught him with that killer shot. And one of the things I wanted to say as well is I hate when people give fighters such a hard time when they end up hitting another fighter when they're knocked out, because authenticity. Oh man, I was waiting for that to happen. I knew that was going to happen on the live. I was just waiting for it to happen because my stand isn't the greatest. So yeah, I was absolutely waiting for that to happen, and now I'm going to probably fix this real quick. Oh my goodness, I was waiting for it to happen. Oh, authenticity. Making sure it won't blow over now. So I think we're good. Right. But my point being was, my point was so good that even my phone stand couldn't take it. I mean, it just got blown away.
The phone
just got blown away. Yeah, it just got blown away. But no, people were giving Derek Lewis a hard time because he hit Curtis Blaydes with those 2 shots after he was knocked out. And I don't like when people give fighters a hard time about that, because a lot of fans and media to a certain extent too always praise the fighters who have that killer instinct and that chip on their shoulder, and that they're ready to, got that killer mode, and they go in and they give it their all and stuff. And then when they actually go to the lengths that people like for them to, they're frowned upon about it. So I didn't like that people were trying to criticize Derek Lewis coming out of that, hitting Curtis Blaydes on the ground 2 more times, because, I mean, he just has his kill mode on and he's just going in for the kill. But overall performance, Derek Lewis, man, that was a hell of a knockout, and might have taken, or at least in the argument for a knockout of the year.
It's definitely up there. It was like right when it happened, I was just like, oh my God. Like, it was so quick too. Like, even who was it on the broadcast? Michael Bisping was like, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I didn't even see what happened. He had to watch the replay to even see what happened. And one thing that Derek Lewis said immediately after the fight, was that's Herb Dean's fault. As soon as he said that, I was dying laughing. But I felt where he was coming from, because during the fight, I was just kind of seeming like agitated, and I'm like, just grunting. And my girlfriend was like, what's wrong? I'm like, Herb Dean is like, he's like stopping the fight and like starting the fight and like stopping it again and calling eye pokes for like Lewis, but not for Blaydes. And it was just like, just back and forth. And I was just like, man, just get Herb out of there. Like at a certain point, it almost just kind of seems as if like the dude, I'm not saying he can't do the job, but he's getting worse and worse. Ever since the quarantine started, I just feel like him and Chris Taioni, I've said this multiple times on this show specifically, Herb Dean and Chris Taioni over this past quarantine period has just been the worst referees. And I wouldn't know their names like that if they weren't so bad. Like, I forget Jason Herzog's name all the time, specifically because I'm like, oh, what's the guy's name? I looked it up right before I started talking like about this. I don't want to get too much into the refs. But anyway, back to the fight. Herb was, like I said, stopping it back and forth. Derek Lewis hit him, knocked him out, said that's Herb Dean's fault. And then at the post-fight, elaborated that what he meant by that was when he went down, he hit him 2 extra times, and it was Herb Dean's fault. Because as you pointed out, Derek Lewis did what he should do and hit him until Herb Dean told him to stop. So those 2 extra times were technically Herb Dean's fault, and that's all that Derek Lewis was saying. Me personally, it's tough seeing people get hit when they're out cold like that, but it's the sport. The part that may get to me just a little bit is when they're heavyweights. Like when Jorge did it to Ben, he hit him. but Jorge's not Derek Lewis. You know, Derek Lewis is a massive individual. So I get it, but at the same time, it is the sport. And if the ref's not there to stop it, they're told to go until they stop. So that's really all I have to say on that subject. Derek Lewis starched him. Impressive knockout. I do agree with you. It's got to be in the running for best knockouts of the year so far.
No, and I agree with your point completely with, the Herb Dean point as well. You know, he's got to get over there and stop the fight. And I know it's heavyweights, but at the same time, I mean, Jorge Masvidal can also hit hard as well. So, you know, when he's hitting Ben Askren with those shots, I mean, of course, you know, he doesn't have the power of Derek Lewis. You know, not too many people do. Maybe Francis, and that's about it. But no, I completely agree with you in that part that, you know, Herb Dean's got to get over there and stop that. And, Derek Lewis, you know, he has the kill switch on. You know, he's in kill mode when he's in that octagon. And, you know, he carries that throughout the fight. And, you know, he even said, you never know what can happen. You know, if he tries to go for a walk-off KO and then all of a sudden Curtis Blaydes wakes up like The Undertaker, I mean, what are you going to do at that point? Then Derek Lewis is going to look dumb. Sort of similar to when Jairzinho Rozenstruik walked off from Alistair Overeem when people didn't think that fight should have been stopped. So had that fight not have been stopped, Jairzinho Rozenstruik would have lost that fight. So Derek Lewis had every right to go in for the extra shots just to make sure that, you know, he's not going to get up, you know, because you never know how, if Curtis Blaydes is able to pull an Undertaker and wake up out of nowhere. So I just hated that people were giving Derek Lewis such a hard time about it. When, that's the sport, man. I mean, it's brutal, but I mean, that's what comes with it.
Definitely. A great main event. Just any other thing like you want to say about like just the main fight itself?
I'm actually interested to see how far this actually takes Derek Lewis in the heavyweight division. Now, I know he said that he wanted to fight Overeem next. I think he's just saying that. I know Overeem and Derek Lewis have been throwing some jabs over at each other the last few years or so. And I think that Derek Lewis kind of wants to get that fight before Alistair Overeem is out of there. I would actually like to see him fight the winner of this weekend's fight between Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Cyril Gane, is since John Jones is probably going to be the next guy up, you know, regardless of who wins between Stipe and Francis. So I see John Jones fighting for that, for the heavyweight title next after that fight happens. And then, possibly the winner of Derek Lewis and the winner of Cyril Gane and Jairzinho Rozenstruik, they could possibly earn a title shot after that. If Jones or Francis, whoever, or Stipe, or, you know, whoever wins the heavyweight title, you know, coming up, you know, there's a very good chance that Derek Lewis, I think he's won 4 in a row now, and knocking out number 2 Curtis Blaydes, that's going to move him up to number 2 in the division. You know, so I think one more big win. He wants to stay busy, so one more big win, and you could be talking about Derek Lewis and having another title shot. So I'm excited to see where this takes him.
I'm hesitant on calling Derek Lewis's next fight, just simply because the heavyweight division right now is so fishy, and for me personally, I just feel like something's going to happen before the end of the year where this division isn't going to go the way that everyone thinks it's going to go. I just think that there's going to be something to throw a little wrench in there, because it just seems like it's too planned out right now, and you know how things go. Whenever they're too planned out like this, something always happens and just throws a wrench in it all. That's what happens in the UFC. Someone comes in and is a huge spoiler, so who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? We're along for the ride. I'm excited to watch it. Lewis versus next week's winner, count me in, I'd be good, but like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just interested to see how this division plays out for the rest of the year. That being said, we're going to move right along to the rest of the card from last night. So let me just throw it at you real quick. The rest of the results, as you know, Derek Lewis did beat Curtis Blaydes by knockout. Yana Kunitskaya getting it done over Caitlin Vieira. I see you smiling up there. You know what happened there. Charles Rosa did not get it done over Derek Minner. Derek Minner gets it done by split decision or unanimous decision at the end. I'm not sure.
Oh, unanimous. Minner dominated that fight. I think he got a 30-26 in there.
And then Chris Dawkins just knocking out Alexei Oleinik on the feet there. I really thought Alexei had what it took to get it done. This fight wasn't on the card last week when we made our picks, but Phil Hall's getting it done over Nasruddin Imaev. That fight was getting close there at the end. Phil Hall's was real close. And then
he was hanging on by a limb at the end of the third round.
Yeah. And then to start off the night, Tom Aspinall putting on a clinic over Andrei Arlovski. But that's where I want to start. I want to start at the first fight of the night, the first heavyweight fight on the main card, if you will. Tom Aspinall versus Andrei Arlovski. I thought Tom Aspinall could have got Arlovski out of there in the first minute of that fight. It almost looked like he was toying with an older Andrei Arlovski, and just a little bit, I was like, you can't toy with Arlovski all like that because he can still knock you out. Arlovski still has power. But I saw Arlovski start to throw after he had been hit, and you could see that he was hesitant because he knew Aspinall's power already. He had already been touched, and he knew that he was hesitant. He was like, oh, I'm not going to knock this guy out. And from that point forward, I was just waiting. I'm like, when is this slaughter going to happen? And midway through the first round, Tom Aspinall started throwing hands at Arlovski. If you go back and watch the replay, Tom Aspinall knocks out Arlovski on his feet. Arlovski goes stiff for a second, gets hit again, then wakes back up and starts clinching Tom Aspinall. I was like, oh my God, this dude just got knocked out on his feet and then knocked back awake by Tom Aspinall. It's crazy. I don't know how Arlovski does it. The guy is a superhuman, a vet in the game. Give him your respect. But anyway, moving right along. Clinches him the rest of the first round, and then when round two starts off, in between, the commentators were like, how's Tom Aspinall's ground game, this, and this, and he must have heard them because immediately bull rushed Andrei Arlovski, double leg takedown into probably the quickest heavyweight transition into a sub that I've ever seen. It couldn't have been any more than 4 seconds. Quicker than Khabib submitted Gaethje, and that was quick, but just a crazy impressive performance by Tom Aspinall. He is definitely a prospect to watch out for. What'd you think about this one, Doran?
I think 4 seconds might be selling them short there. It seemed like he locked that submission up quicker than that.
Yeah.
Man, I think Tom Aspinall is going to be a problem in the heavyweight division. The young crop of heavyweights that are coming up now. Chris Dawkins on the card too. We could talk about him here in a little bit too. But Tom Aspinall, man, he's got a lot of good things about him in his fighting style. He's super quick and he's precise with his punching. And as you said, the commentators are kind of, questioning his ground game and how good he can do. And for someone like Arlovski, like he has been knocked out before, but a lot of times when he loses to the up-and-coming fighters, they normally outpoint him. They take him to a decision. But unless you're Jairzinho Rozenstruik or Francis Ngannou. But other than that, if Andrei Arlovski loses, he typically doesn't get finished that much, and he definitely doesn't get submitted. So for Tom Aspinall to mix it up in the way he did, and for him to basically knock him out in the first round, and then beat him to death, and then beat him back to consciousness, it looked like Andrei Arlovski was fighting back a little tough there. Once he got kind of woken back up, he did hit Aspinall with a few shots, but it looked good for Aspinall because it didn't phase him at all. He ate him pretty good, and he walked forward, chin down, and precise punching, super precise punching, and the way that he transitioned into that rear naked choke, you could tell that he had that thing synced in because it took Andrei Arlovski absolutely no time to tap out. Like Aspinall had it locked in for not even a full second, and Arlovski immediately tapped because he knew how deep the choke was. So Aspinall, man, I think he's going to be a problem for the heavyweight division in the few years to come.
Just for those of you who don't know, Tom Aspinall is a training partner with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, the heavyweight boxing champion, also trains with Darren Till on the ground. Till trained, 10 years in Brazil, maybe? Something like that. Great ground game as well. The guy trains with killers. He knows what he's doing. Definitely a heavyweight prospect. We just now kind of touched on Phil Hawes versus Nasruddin Imoyev. I just want to say this just 1 second. Phil Hawes put a wrestling clinic on Nasruddin Imoyev for 2 rounds and 2 rounds and a half of a round. And then, man, the last part of the round, Nasruddin Imoyev just really turned it on, put the beats on Phil Hawes. I told my girlfriend when this bell rang, I'm like, who do you think won this? She goes, Phil Hawes won 2 rounds. I'm like, yeah, for sure he won 2 rounds. But that 3rd round, I would have gave it a 10-8. He got his ass beat that 3rd round. And I'm like, don't be surprised if this is a draw. And the first scorecard was a draw. I just looked at it, I'm like, I told you. Like, someone had to have seen it how I seen it. I would have gave that round like a 10-8. That fight deserved a draw for me. What about you, Dorian?
I actually agree. I'm not going to throw a big fit over it. I do think that, you could say it was a 10-9 because Phil Hawes did have control for a good portion of that round on the ground as well. And then right there at the end, Imavov started turning on. And man, that was really crazy to see Hawes on wobbly legs like that in the 3rd round. And for him to have the resiliency to stay calm and collected and be able to just to clinch it up just to save the fight, because at that point he was 1 or 2 shots away from getting finished. And right there when he was rocked there towards the end, it was crazy because Imavov kind of assumed the clinch position with him. And I remember I looked at my wife when we were watching the fight and I said, why would he assume the clinch position with him when they're separated and he's landing knees and elbows and all kinds of strikes and hurting him and going to get him out of there? Why would he assume the clinch position again? But that was good for Phil Hawes to kind of weather the storm late and barely hang on to the victory. But that was a good performance overall by both fighters, I think. And I thought it should have been a draw too.
Overall, just a good fight. Phil Hawes showing that he has gas, but when you use just pedal to the metal just for 2.5 rounds, eventually you're going to run out. So we're going to move up to the next card. Alexei the Boa Constrictor Oleinik going up against Chris Daukaus. I had this fight in a parlay bet over 1.5 rounds. I just didn't feel like Chris Daukaus was going to knock Alexei Oleinik out like that quick. He's still rather new to the UFC. I've only seen him fight maybe once or twice. And Alexei Oleinik is a vet. And if he gets anyone on the ground, I would almost call fight over. You got to watch out. The dude will wrap you up from any point. You could have this dude in a submission and he'll tap you out. It doesn't even make sense how good this guy is on the ground. So I did think that he was going to get it done here. But Chris Daukaus showing why he is the new upcoming young lion, getting it done, knocking out Alexei Oleinik on the feet at that. Ref stopped it. What do you got to say about this fight?
I was, as I predicted, I did think that Chris Daukaus was going to be able to knock him out. That's kind of the way that Oleinik loses, is he kind of gets flurried on. I know when he lost to Walt Harris, he kind of got flurried. Alistair Overeem, he flurried him with knees in the clinch. And a lot of the losses that he's taken, he's absolutely gotten blitzed. And he's just a lot slower now.
Right before you go on, I just want to point out, all of Oleinik's losses, though, are to these massive heavyweights, though. That's what kind of made me go for Oleinik here, was because Chris Daukaus isn't a massive heavyweight. He paid in around 235, something like that. So he isn't this Alistair Overeem, Derek Lewis, Walt Harris, these massive heavyweights. He was not too big of a guy. So that's the only reason why I was I believe Alexei can get it done here. But sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. And well, because Alexi honestly isn't the biggest heavyweight. I mean, I know Chael Sonnen will tell stories all the time about how he fought Alexi Oleinik at middleweight. Back in the Bodog days,
yeah.
you know, back in the late '90s, you know, they fought one another then. So Alexei Oleinik isn't the biggest heavyweight, and I know Chris Dawkins, he's not the biggest as well, but he's pretty athletic. You know, he's younger, he's got quick hands, and man, Alexei Oleinik, one of the things that it just seems like he does not learn his head movement, because he just constantly he shells up. And when he's just getting bombed on, he just shells up and just tries to absorb the punches as much as he can. And I just think at this point in his career, he's just a lot older and too slow to keep up with the younger guys. Of course, he always has the Oleinik choke, as they call it now, not the Ezekiel choke, the Oleinik choke. But I know he's always got that ace in the hole. You know, he's got a good ground game, but it seems like, you know, here lately, once he faces the young and faster fighters, this is typically the way that it ends for him. So not surprising to see Chris Dawkins get the first round stoppage there. And I would have liked to have seen that fight got stopped a little sooner. It even looked like Oleinik there when he was on the cage getting battered. It looked like he looked at because Herb Dean was reffing that fight, right?
I think so.
And we'll talk about it more in here in just a second. But yeah, that fight should have been stopped earlier than what it was, but Chris Dawkins had a hell of a performance overall, and I'm also excited to see where he goes, because wasn't Oleinik ranked number 10, number 12, or something like that going into the fight? So I know he was ranked between 10 and 15. So
he was number 10 before this fight, number 10.
Okay, so yeah, so that's probably going to put Chris Dawkins in the top 10 of the heavyweight division. So I'm not saying title fight right away, but you know, that's pretty big for, as you said, how inconsistent this heavyweight division can be sometimes, and you know how this division can all of a sudden make a 180. You know, Chris Dawkins being a young up and coming fighter, you know, if he's willing to say yes and things like that, you know, the UFC is going to give him opportunities, and you know, he's a number 10 ranked guy now, so he's got a lot of big opportunities coming forward for him, and I'm excited to see what he can make out of him.
Shout out Chris Dawkins, definitely one of the new up and comers in the heavyweight division. We're gonna move right up the card. I'm gonna be honest, after I saw that Charles Rosa probably wasn't going to win this fight, I was kind of just playing like on my phone. I was really going for him here. He was just pretty much just getting dominated for the most part. Like Eric Minner, he was trying to, Charles Rosa was trying to throw up a couple subs, but just wasn't really getting it done. Couldn't really get anything locked up like that. Ended up just getting dominated by Derek Minner. I really don't want to say too much about this fight, Dorian. What about this one for you?
Just a scrappy performance from Derek Minner to come in as big of an underdog as he was, and to put it on Charles Rosa like he did, and he honestly dominated him in all facets. You know, he controlled him for a good portion of the fight when they were on the ground. You know, he was controlling Rosa. You know, Rosa threw up a couple of submissions and kind of almost had an arm bar. I wouldn't say it was really dangerous, but he threw up a couple of attempts. And, you know, Derek Minner stuffed all those, and then he had that moment in the second round where he dropped him with that good right hand. So just a really gritty performance by him, and way to step up as the underdog like he did.
Cool. You know what it's time for, man. It's time for that fight on the card that we haven't talked about yet. The co-main event, Ketlen Vieira versus Yana Kunitskaya. I told you, man. You flame me for telling you that she's good. I tell you, she is a top-notch fighter. She belongs at the top of these divisions. But you don't believe me. She's married to the Hammer. Yana Kunitskaya gets it done over Ketlen Vieira. It honestly looked like at the end of round one, Ketlen Vieira's gas tank was on E. It looked like she emptied it in the first round, trying to get Kunitskaya out of there. But what happened when she didn't get her out of there? She had nothing left of the tank, and therefore, Kunitskaya kind of turned it up and ended up getting the dub out there at the end by, I believe it was split decision ended up splitting her open with the elbow there at the end of the third round, and I think that got her done for. Like you said, you saw half this fight or like something like that. So, like, did you go back and watch it all, or if you did?
I watched the whole thing there at basically the last minute of it. I'd kind of assumed that Caitlin Vieira had it in the bag. Okay. And then, with about like 20 seconds left, I just didn't have a good feeling about it. And so I peeked back in and seen what happened. But I'll let you finish.
Oh, yeah, but go ahead. So what do you think about the fight, though? About the train crash that was Caitlin Vieira in this fight. She was rolling until she just went off the tracks.
So the thing that was, I guess, a little frustrating was, yes, I might have had some sort of implications on Caitlin Vieira. So take that one way or another. I might have. I'm not saying I did, but I might have. Let's just say hypothetically I did. Watching Caitlin Vieira come out in the first round, and she got a lot of good top control, and she had the first round in the bag. You can see after the first round, as you said, she went for so many different submission attempts, and she ended up gassing herself out. And then I think in the second round there, she did the same thing, and she ended up taking Yana Kunitskaya down, but Yana was able to get the reversal and then get back on top. And then you could just see Caitlin Vieira just throwing up submission attempt after submission attempt after submission attempt. And none of them were making any significant difference with, it wasn't changing Yana Kunitskaya's position. She went for a couple of heel hooks. She went for a couple of Kimuras. And none of them were really had Yana in any type of danger at all. And I think when Caitlin Vieira kept doing that, she really burned herself out, and Yana was able to get some good ground and pound in the second round. And then in the third round, Caitlin Vieira got that takedown again early in the round and had a lot of control for a good portion of that round until about the last minute or so. And then that's when Yana was able to reverse position. I think, was it with like 30 seconds left? She was able to, 30 seconds left in the round. She was able to reverse position. She was getting a little bit of ground and pound off, and there with about 15 seconds left, she started raining down some heavy elbows, and once she started doing that, she split Caitlin Vieira wide open. And I think ultimately that is what gave the judges to give Yana the nod there for the win. I was surprised because I know in a lot of old school MMA judging, they would have ruled the control more than they would have the actual damage. Now, you can say that Yana threw more strikes overall because she absolutely did. I think Caitlin Vieira only landed about 18 strikes herself the whole fight. So she didn't do herself any favors by doing that. But I thought with her having the control there for most of the third round, except for the last 30 seconds or so, she had control for, 4 minutes of that round. So I thought they were going to score it for Vieira, but I can't be too mad because, Caitlin Vieira didn't do enough, even when she was striking or even when she had top control, she wasn't really doing much as far as any type of ground and pound or anything like that to sway the judges her way. And I think that's what made her ultimately lose the fight at the end of the day. But Yana, yes, she looked good. She looked energized, and her striking is definitely coming along a lot more. So she actually came up as a big underdog as well and performed well.
Man, just got it done. What was I going to say? I kind of forgot what I was going to say as there at the end. I don't remember, but just pretty much any other.
Not important.
Any other fight on the main card or like we just now went over the main card, but on the prelims, like you just want to talk about before we jump on to the next topic?
Yeah, I like the Julian Erosa, the flying knee knockout. Yeah. So yeah, I like that flying knee knockout, but man, Ayman, is it Ayman Zahabi?
Yeah,
that's
Zahabi,
the Faraz Zahabi's brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you can tell because, of course, that last name is very distinct.
Mm-hmm.
But also, just the way they both got the shaved head.
Before you go, just 1 second. Kaylin Vieira, like, by the way, missed weight 139, I think. So came in.
I think it was like 138.
Yeah, something like that. So she missed weight by 3 pounds. So she ran out of gas for like a reason. She wasn't prepared 100% for the fight. Anyway, go ahead. Ayman Zahabi versus Draco Rodriguez. Draco Rodriguez also missed weight.
Yeah, that was the funny part was that he also ended up missing weight, but man, it did not affect Ayman Zahabi at all. You know, he got some super sharp striking, and man, he was just so sharp with that 1-2, and he was catching Rodriguez with that a couple of different times, and you know, Rodriguez kept going in with that lead uppercut and was trying to hit him with it, and Zahabi kept hitting him with the counter, but it just looked like he was just a little off on his shot, and then finally Rodriguez went in there with that lead uppercut that final time, and as soon as he did, you know, Zahabi timed it up perfectly and came over with the overhand right, or not even the overhand right. It was really just a straight right down the middle and caught him right on the chin and knocked him out cold. So that was one that, man, that was a hell of a performance, and especially to see a Zahabi brother that's in the UFC, I'm definitely excited to see what he can pull off in the future.
Like Zahabi breaking a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC at that point. So it was almost like he was fighting for his place in the UFC. He could have gotten cut if he didn't get it done here. We're going to move up the card just one slot. Shayna Dobson versus Casey O'Neill. I did have some money on Shayna Dobson in her last fight against Maria Agapova. She was a huge underdog and ended up getting it done over Agapova late. And I didn't know too much about Casey O'Neill. She's a UFC newcomer, but man, did she stand out. She put on a performance over Shayna Dobson all 3 rounds, really. In the 125-pound division, Casey O'Neill looks like she could be a problem for a lot of the girls there. She's massive for the weight class. That's one thing that stood out to me because Shayna Dobson isn't small herself, and O'Neill was roughly the same size. So good size for the division, but not really too much aside from she looked good altogether. You kind of said something like about this fight. I like this fight. I like Nate Landwehr, man. This dude comes out ready to throw at all times, dude. And you know what I'm going to say. Did he have a haircut? Ooh-wee, this boy. His haircut was nice. Against Julian Erosa, this fight I just knew. If there was one solid bet that I could have made on this entire night, it would have been this fight going under whatever it was. 1.5 rounds, 2.5 rounds. I knew this fight wasn't going to happen because both these dudes come out like they're shot out of a cannon and someone's going to fall down. They both fell down. Like, to be honest, Julian Erosa got dropped with a right hook on the ear, and then about 5 seconds later, hit like Nate Landwehr back. He started stumbling back, ended up on the fence, and then got hit with a switch knee right up the middle, dropped him, kind of contesting like to the ref just a little bit, but I mean he was out for at least a second at that, so there's not really much you can do when you're out like that.
When he went to stand up, the only reason why he was still standing to argue with the ref was because the cage was behind him to hold him up. Because as soon as he stood up, he looked like he was drunk the way he was falling back, and the cage held him up. If it was not for the cage and the knockout had happened in the center of the octagon, he would have fell on his butt once he stood up. So I know that he wanted to keep going, but that was absolutely a good stoppage.
Now, could he have still fought? Probably. But overall, not the worst stoppage I've ever seen. I've seen a lot worse. I've seen a lot better. Speaking of stoppages, it'll bring us perfectly on to the next topic of today's show, the referees in general, the stoppages. Last night, you basically saw 2 extremes. The first fight of the night, Sergey Spivak versus Jared Vanderaa, dude. I felt bad for Vanderaa. It was like he was just getting beat up the entire first round, and then the entire second round until it got stopped, just over and over, getting punished, and just There was no chance of him coming out of that at all. And Chris Taglioni, fight back, fight back, fight back, fight back. Like, bro, he ain't going to fight back. Just stop it, you know? And then you see Chris Taglioni again in the, I think the what fight was he reffing on the main card? Which one was it? Was it the Dawkins O'Neal or was it the Aspinall Arlovsky? One of those two fights. Was it like Aspinall?
I believe it was. I think it was the Arlovsky fight. I think that was the one that they did because.
Yeah, but like I said, he got knocked out, and the ref didn't stop it. I was like, he's out. Stop it. And Chris Taglioni just seems like he's just. It almost seems like he's hesitant to stop a fight now, where he got called for stopping the last one early and then like restarting it. I don't know, man. That he stands out to me as one of. I don't know. I don't mean to bag on the guy. I don't mean to say I could do this job better, but. There's plenty of other people that definitely could do the job better, and we see them. We just got to get more guys like that in there in the octagon. And then Herb Dean, on the other hand, I feel like he wants to be too hands-on. Like he's always got something going on ever since the quarantine started. As I've been saying this, it's very rare that there's one fight that he's like reffing that he doesn't have to do something like stop in, like, oh, not yet, or hey, watch your fingers, hey, stop, like, come here. Like, he makes it a point to stop the fight and like do this. I understand that's his job, but it's almost like it's only happening with him at this point. Either he's doing his job and no one else is, or he's kind of taking stuff a little too far when it's like, hey man, these guys are in a fist fight. Can you just let them do what they do? Like, I get it if a person complains or it's a hard nut shot or something like that. But aside from that, man, can we just let these dudes throw? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree 100%. And I thought that, because my wife, she likes Herb Dean overall. She's liked him because we watched.
He used to be the best ref, the gold standard. He really did. But
yeah.
I'm telling you, since the quarantine started, it's like he took his gold ref card and like shredded it and threw it out the window. He's like, I don't need this anymore. My ref card's made of shit now. Like, that's really what it seems like.
Yeah. So she's a big fan of him, and when the Derek Lewis and Curtis Blaydes fight was going on, and when Curtis Blaydes, he eye poked Derek Lewis, and he got super assertive when it came to, hey, keep your fingers, your either your fist closed or your fingers up, but no
Derek
fingers
Lewis,
out.
I'm talking to you, and it's like I didn't see Derek Lewis have one even close to eye poke, like
Yeah. And then, they had that incident there in the second round as well. And, Derek Lewis thought he got eye poked. And I think Curtis Blaydes might have accidentally slapped him.
Yeah. No, so what happened was Derek Lewis was like, Blaydes apologized, said, oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Stepped back for a second, like acknowledging that he eye poked him. And then Herb Dean said, no, that was a slap. Like, at what point did you see Curtis Blaydes throwing slaps in that fight? I didn't see him throw any slaps in that fight. Therefore, he got eye poked. It's like he's picking and choosing. It's hard for me to express my feelings toward Herb Dean because he's not going to see this. But if you do, Herb, come on, man. You used to be one of the best. You got to get it together.
Yeah, and also, I think he was the ref for the Aspinall and Arlovsky fight, so I'd have to double check that again. But talking about the ref,
those two in the Olenek Dawkins fight, then. But either way, it's like those two fights just went on way longer than they should have. It was just like,
it was Dawkins and Arlovsky Olenek, because I remember when Olenek was on the fence, and this is the point I was going to make earlier, but said I'd save it for now. When Olenek is on the cage getting pounded on, he's getting pounded, and you can see he's shelled up, and he looks up at Herb Dean as almost if it's like, dude, save me, like,
or like, what's his name? fucking Chris Tione. One of the two. Whichever one it was, those two refs, they were prominent last night in just messing up in their two fights specifically. You'd never hear anything bad out of Mark Smith. Never.
Mm-mm. Yeah, him, or you'll hear something about Mark Goddard every now and then, but for the most part, Mark Goddard's one of those guys as well. I think as far as the best refs right now, you might have to say it might be between Mark Smith and Mark Goddard, because those are the ones who have the least amount of controversy.
I'm going strong with Jason Herzog, man. He's one of my favorites. I really do like Jason Herzog. He does his little hand thing at the beginning. He's like, with his gloves. He's my favorite. Small dude. Last week when he was the ref for the who was it? Why am I drawing a blank right now? Alexander Volkov versus Overeem. He was the ref. The smallest ref was the ref for the biggest dudes. It's just funny sometimes. Chris Tione, I feel like he also gets in the way. Like, you see him tripping over himself a whole lot. Like, I just feel like there needs to be more tests that these refs are put under. If you're going to be in the cage officiating two massive 265-pound people, one, you need to be capable of controlling anything if it gets out of hand. And I feel like half these refs definitely are not. And two, I feel like you need to be aware of what's going on, because I just feel like sometimes you're just watching and it could be different from home. They're seeing something that I'm not seeing. But it just looks like sometimes these dudes are just getting beat and beat and beat. And I know fighters want to go out on their shield. But as you said, when you see Olenek look up at the ref hey man, I'm not fighting back. Are you going to stop this?
Save me.
Right?
Save me.
It's like you just see it and they just don't stop it, and you feel bad for the fighters, but at the same time they're stepping in there for a reason. They're feeding their families off of this. So this is just kind of a point for us. We don't really rip people too much, because I respect every fighter that gets in that octagon. These guys are taking a chance with their life every single time. So I respect them. I might have an opinion on who I think might be better than someone else, and I'm allowed to have that. I'm a fan. We pay our hard-earned money to watch these guys. They should enjoy the fact that we want to see them lose, or we want to see them win, because either way, we're watching them and they're getting paid off of it. But that's a whole different story. Anyway, I respect these dudes, but I just feel bad for them sometimes. Just the amount of damage that they take when it's just not needed. And the ref just could have stopped it multiple times, and they just didn't do their job. Anything else on the referees?
That Sergey Spivak one as well, man. That was brutal, because the guy was, he looked like he was honestly giving up position.
First fight in the UFC. He just came off the Contender Series. This is his first fight in the UFC, and he gets beat like that. It wouldn't surprise me if dude never fought again, dude. He took way more damage than he needed to take.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where you get enough damage to, that can alter your career. So, it was really bad to see him, in that position to take that much damage, and Tione kind of just, fight back. He's clearly not fighting back. Stop the fight.
It isn't that he doesn't want to fight back. He doesn't have the capability. He isn't trained enough. He doesn't have those skills, Chris Tione. That's what I'm saying. These refs, him specifically, it's almost like he's not aware that, hey, this dude ain't getting out of that spot. He's getting beat up. He's bleeding literally everywhere. There's 3 minutes left on the clock at this point. He's not getting out of there. I should just call this. But nope. Lets it go the entire first round and midway through the second round before he stops it. I don't know, man.
It was brutal.
I feel like I'm doing a great job of cutting you off today. So I apologize. Just every time you say something, I'm like, duh.
You're fired. Well, I think you're more fired up about the refs than anything. Man. So once you got you got that much fire built up, I'll just let you roll.
Anyway, that's all we have to say about the refs. I'm going to shut my mouth. We are going to talk about this upcoming weekend's fight night. Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Cyril Gane, however you want to say it. This guy's name has changed 4 times since he's been in the UFC. And I don't mean just changed. John Anik has said it 4 different ways since he's been in the UFC. So let me just go over just this main card real quick. Main fight of the night, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Cyril Gane. Co-main event, Nikita Krylov. Yes, I said that. Nikita Krylov, I feel like this guy's been in the UFC for the entire time of the UFC. It kind of feels like, is like, this the same guy? Is this the same guy?
It is him. He's made multiple stints with the UFC. I know that he... I think he fought for him like 2015, 2016, and then he left for a few years. I think he came back in 2019 and has been back with them since.
Anyway.
It was around that timeline, but yeah, he has in and out. He's been with the UFC for quite some time.
Yeah.
He has.
Anyway, so Nikita Krylov versus Magomed Ankalaev should be a rather interesting card. It looks like UFC really propping up Ankalaev here to get it done over Nikita Krylov. The return of Montana De La Rosa against Mariana Bueno Silva. I believe that's Mariana. Let me try this. Mayra Bueno Silva. I've seen her before. I'm not sure how to say her name. It just throws me off. Randy Brown against the return of the Cowboy, but not the Cowboy that you're thinking of. Cowboy Alex Oliveira. Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera, rescheduled from the other week to this upcoming weekend. And Alex Caceres versus Kevin Kroom. So how many fights is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's go all besides Pedro Munoz versus Jimmy Rivera, simply because these are 2 vets. They deserve our respect. We're going to watch it all together. Let's not make a pick here on the vets. So let's just go Jairzinho versus Cyril Gane, Krylov versus Ankalaev, De La Rosa, Silva, Brown versus Oliveira, and then Bruce Leroy versus Kevin Kroom. So me personally, actually right before we do this, Dorian, last week, man, our picks, we didn't do our little champ announcement, and I know, my man, you want everyone to know that you kept that bell, right? Yes.
Come on. Who's the real?
So last week, I'm gonna go over my picks real quick. I picked Curtis Blaydes to get it done over Derek Lewis. That didn't happen. I did pick Yana Kunitskaya to get it done over Caitlin Vieira. That did happen. I picked Charles Rosa over Derek Manor. I picked Alexei Oleinik over Chris Dawkins. And I did pick Tom Aspinall over Andrei Arlovsky. But the only 2 I got right there was Yana Kunitskaya and Tom Aspinall. I only got 2 right. Dorian, on the other hand, picked Derek Lewis, Caitlin Vieira, Charles Rosa, Chris Dawkins, and Tom Aspinall. And because of that, him picking Derek Lewis, Chris Dawkins, and Tom Aspinall, he has 3 over my 2. So congratulations, Dorian. You are, and still, the pick champ of the week for the Golden Octagon MMA channel. But it's okay, because we're going to make our picks right now for next week. And guess what? It's coming home with Daddy next week. That's how I'm feeling. So, up first, Cyril Gane versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Man, this is a tough one. Heavyweights, you never know what's going to happen. Cyril Gane, a training partner of Francis Ngannou. Jairzinho Rozenstruik has power himself. You saw him knock out plenty of people. Oh, man, I'm going to go Cyril Gane here. For me personally, there's something about this dude. He isn't too fast. He isn't too quick. Personally, he should be an underdog here, in my opinion, but I think he gets it done here. Jairzinho Rozenstruik does have a lot of tools. He is quick, but I think Gane has power. You saw him knock out JDS, kinda, just a little bit. I think Gane gets it done here. Krylov versus Ankalaev. I'm going Ankalaev. I believe they're propping him up to get a big win over Krylov here. Montana De La Rosa versus Mario Bueno Silva. I'm going Montana De La Rosa here, but if that doesn't happen, it's okay because it's always tough. Randy Brown versus Cowboy Alex Oliveira, not the cowboy that Dorian likes. I'm going to go Randy Brown here, man. I believe Randy Brown can get that knockout over Cowboy Oliveira. Cowboy does get hit quite often, and I feel like he's got knocked out a couple times, so I believe Randy Brown can get him out of there. We're going to skip Munoz versus Rivera, and we're going to go Bruce Leroy versus Kevin Kroom. I'm a sucker for Bruce Leroy. I like the way he fights. I'm going Alex Caceres here. So overall, I got Gane, Ankalaev, Montana De La Rosa, Randy Brown, and Alex Caceres. So that is my picks for this week, Dorian. How about you, man? Who do you got for Rozenstruik versus Gane?
Man, I gotta go with Rozenstruik here because
it's a smart pick. It really is.
Man, I just think that Cyril Gane, he's a good fighter. He's definitely got talent. I do know that the heavyweights need, the heavyweight division as a whole needs a boost of fresh talent. I know Cyril Gane is one of those guys. I think Rozenstruik's kind of on he's fought at the higher level a little bit longer. It's not that he's been fighting in the UFC a whole lot longer, but he's already fought Alistair Overeem. And even though he lost to Francis Ngannou, and guess what? Jairzinho Rozenstruik actually knocked out JDS right before Cyril Gane did. So I think Rozenstruik overall, I think him going that 5 rounds with Alistair Overeem was a good learning experience for him. And then I think also the fight with Francis, as much as people, have given him a hard time about it, I think that was really a good learning experience for him to build on moving forward. And I think that Cyril Gane, he has good talent. I just hadn't seen that next green level. Yeah, he's very good. He's super athletic, built like a brick shithouse, dude. That dude is absolutely stacked. But I just hadn't seen enough out of his fights to make me, really imagine him fighting the top contenders in the heavyweight division. And I think that Jairzinho Rozenstruik, man. And last I looked, he was like a 2-1 underdog. So that's going to be some. Really? I think that you could. Yeah, I think underdog here. Yeah, I believe when I seen it last, now this was the other day, so the line's going to change by now. I'm sure people were pounding Rozenstruik pretty hard, on the money line, if that was the case. I had seen it, I believe it was Friday I had seen it when I was looking up the fights for this week. But, I think Rozenstruik will definitely, if he is the underdog, definitely some good money to put on, and I think he'll be able to get the win.
I'm just checking this just real quick before we move right along. Currently, the odds, Rozenstruik is the underdog, man. Almost 3-1 too. Now, currently, Cyril Gane a -300 favorite and Rozenstruik a +250 underdog, dude. I want to be honest.
So actually, even bigger. He was a +220 when I seen it the other day. So even a bigger spread than what it was the other day.
Even though I'm picking Gane here to win, I'm definitely going to put a little bit of cash on Jairzinho Rozenstruik to win this because the dude has just proven himself. The dude has knockout power in the UFC. Has shown it multiple times now. The only thing we've really seen is from Gane is him knock out an older JDS that did get hit in the back of the head. I don't really care what anyone says. Was it a shot in the back of the head? Yeah, but it's because JDS turned his head. It was a legal shot, but it was a fair shot. So it's going to be an interesting fight. So that's who you're picking right there. What about on the co-main event, Dorian?
So I'm not gonna.
That's Ankalaev versus Nikita Krylov.
Okay, yeah, I had to pull it up for a second. I lost it, but I got it back now. Magomed Ankalaev, man, in that last fight against the Hulk.
Ian Kutalaba.
Yeah, Kutalaba. I don't know how I remembered his nickname, but not his actual name. But But man, you can just see how polished his striking is, man. He's so fast.
I just want to let you know, Ion Cutelaba was still faking that last knockout. I just want you to know that he didn't get knocked out still.
Yeah, he was baiting the ref, man. The ref didn't give him a fair enough shot, man. He was ready to throw another punch at any minute now.
Yeah, like just like the Undertaker.
Well, man, you can see in that fight, man, Ankalaev's striking overall, he's super fast, super quick. Nikita Krylov is one of those tough vets. You know, he's been in the UFC for a long time, had a couple of different stints with the UFC, but fought for him for a very long time, has a bunch of bonuses that he's won with the UFC, but I think the young up-and-coming talent with Ankalaev, I think he's going to be able to get it done.
Okay, so you're going Ankalaev here. What about Montana De La Rosa versus Mayra Bueno Silva?
I'm actually going to go the other way on this one. I'm going to go Silva, and it's going to be, I haven't seen too much from Silva, more from what I've seen from De La Rosa, Montana De La Rosa. So she typically gets the fight to the ground a good portion of the time. Her striking, she's very, I guess I can say stiff, to say the least, when it comes to like her punches and stuff. So I don't think she's as well versed of a striker. Almost every time I've said that she's going to win, she ends up losing. So maybe if I go the other way, she's going to end up winning. But I want to go Silva with that fight.
Okay, I think the maybe Montana like De La Rosa. I believe I saw her on TUF back in the day, and she's like
she was on TUF.
To like a fighter in the UFC, something like that. And I don't get into everyone's relationships. I just watch the fights. So that's what I enjoy. So moving down, you got Silva there. So moving down, Randy Brown versus Cowboy Oliveira. Who do you got here, man? I got Randy Brown here.
I'm actually going Randy Brown too.
Okay.
I think Randy Brown had a tough knockout loss. I believe in his last fight. I don't remember him fighting since. He fought Vicente Luque, and Vicente Luque sent him to the shadow realm in their last fight. So, but I think overall, Randy Brown's got some good talent. You know, he's definitely well rounded. He's a good striker. Has good grappling. I think Cowboy Oliveira is a little bit longer in the tooth now. You know, he can still put on a good fight, but as you said, he does get hit a lot. He's small for the welterweight division. You know, if there was a 165 division, I think it would be perfect for Cowboy Oliveira. But I think he's a little bit small compared to a lot of the welterweights. And Randy Brown's kind of lanky, but he's very tall and has good reach. So I think he'll be able to get it done.
Okay, so you're going with Randy Brown with me just as well. And then bring us down to the last fight of the night. I went Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres against Kevin Croom here. Who do you got, Kevin Croom or Bruce Leroy?
Give me Kevin Croom. Okay. I know that he's got a pretty good wrestling base. I know one of the Achilles heels for Alex Caceres is, I'm a sucker for his fighting style too, but he does tend to get taken down a good bit, and he will get controlled for a good portion of the fight. So he has those tendencies. I know Kevin Croom has a pretty good wrestling game, so I'm going to go Kevin Croom.
Okay. So that is our picks for this upcoming weekend's fight card. It's going to be interesting. One fight from that card that I just want to focus in on. Two Contender Series standouts. We've got William Knight versus Alonzo Minifield. These two dudes are brick shit houses. These dudes are massive, bricked up. This is going to be an interesting one. I don't even see the odds, but this is going to be a banger. If this one gives you chances, like the bet over under on this one, don't fall for it. These dudes are both very smart dudes, and these dudes have both went to decision before. So I would honestly bet this one going over. It wouldn't surprise me if this fight went to a decision, but these two dudes are specimens. It's going to be an interesting fight. There's not really too much from the card. We got the return of Alexander Hernandez. If you remember him, he was really big about 2 years ago. But aside from that, just a regular old fight night. Aside from the fights that we have mentioned, anything else, Dorian, from for next week, man?
Nah, man. I think pretty much good, man. So, like I said, still buzzing from that Derek Lewis knockout, man. That was absolutely massive. But But yeah, a good night of fights overall from last night. A lot of good finishes, and definitely gonna be looking forward to next weekend.
For sure, for sure. When you say next weekend, you don't mean this upcoming weekend. You mean the following weekend, March 6th, the Izzy card. Dorian, what are we doing for that card, man? We got to do something. We got to plan something. Are you off that day? Like, please tell me that you took that day off.
I did not take this day off.
You didn't take the day off. Oh, you take off every Izzy card. What happened, man?
Yeah, well, it ended up actually sneaking up on me a little bit quicker than I anticipated, and then I never had the chance to actually ask off for it. But I'm definitely going to make sure that I'm going to be off by 8 o'clock for sure.
So we will not be watching the fight.
That's not going to be a problem.
So we will not be watching the fight together, but it's okay. Maybe one day in the future, once we can actually sit down,
we gotta plan it out. We gotta plan it out a little bit. Like, get a good time frame where we can plan it out and do something like that.
For those of you who don't know, it's about a 5-hour drive in between us. So if it was to happen, it would be like a full day thing, and like we really would have to plan it out, like sleeping arrangements, all of that. But that's pretty much all that I got, Dorian. Any other news, topics, anything else like that like you just want to mention like before we get out of here, man?
Not the news has been kind of like this week. I know one of the things that I had seen earlier actually was Masvidal and Usman 2 doesn't look as likely as it did come last week. I've seen Usman has said that he's not feeling as generous as he was anymore.
Do you know why? I saw that on Jorge's channel. Jorge has a YouTube channel, like something like that. I don't remember, but after he accepted the fight, that's when Usman tweeted that. So it's like Usman was talking all that shit until Jorge accepted the fight, because Usman said that Jorge would never take that fight again. And when Jorge took the fight, now Usman's like, oh, anybody can get it. So it just kind of seems odd on Usman's ends now, but we've talked about this, why people don't like Usman. It's because of this right here. This is why people don't like Usman. This specifically. It's like he'll talk a whole lot of crap, and then it's like he'll just change his mind all of a sudden, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and he gives no explanation. Sorry for cutting you off. Once again, the show. Go ahead, man.
No, you're absolutely fine. No, I understand. You get fired up about Usman too. So, but no, I just never really was in love with the idea of Usman versus Masvidal 2 to begin with. Honestly, Masvidal's coming off of that loss, and although it was you could say it was a boring performance, whatever you may say by Usman, but it was. There was no question at the end of the day who won the fight.
I'm gonna hire Usman to crush all my soda cans. He'd be great at it.
Yeah, he would have crushed. He would have crushed every single one of them without a problem. But because he is a problem. He's a problem. So, but no, I never really had much thirst for the second fight between them two. At least not right now. It seems like Masvidal needs to come back and get a win. And you can arguably make the Colby 2 fight because the Colby Usman 2 fight, because that first fight was an absolute, that's going to go down. It's not the best fight of all time, but that fight's a classic for sure. And I think that Dana, everybody that he talks to about Usman, he would tell you that is like his favorite fight of all time. And they seem like they're kind of eager to make that fight as well. So I think that's another route that they can go. That's another way that they can sell a bunch of pay-per-views. Just not really too interested in seeing Masvidal get a title shot before he ends up having another win. I would like to see him get another win before he gets the title shot.
Let me ask you this. How do you think... let me figure out how to word this, because the new TUF season is going to start off well no matter who they put in there as coaches. And I'm sure you would agree with me just because it's been a little bit since it's been on. But are they going to be able to continue to run this Contender Series along with TUF? Because me personally, I would watch the Contender Series every single night. And I've also said this to you, the past maybe 15 seasons of TUF, I have no clue who was on there. I didn't even watch because it was almost like I was only interested in the fights. And when it just comes to people, arguing about being up too late, or someone's trying to sleep and one person's up, someone drinking another person's water, someone's eating cake in front of someone else. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Zero. I don't care at all. I just want to see the fights. Who's the best? That's why I'm watching it. So now that Contender Series is here, my want for TUF is really zero. I don't care at all. I'll watch it because it's UFC and I'm a UFC homer. I'll watch everything. But I personally don't need it. What are your thoughts on this upcoming season of TUF, man? Who do you think is going to coach? Are they going to get the Usman and George, or Usman and Colby, or are we getting Colby and Usman, Colby and George? Like, what's happening there, man? What do you think?
It's really tough to call either way because, man, they keep kind of, getting wishy-washy on what they want to do. It seemed like they wanted to go the Masvidal-Usman route, and now, they seem like they're kind of pulling the plug on that, and now it seems like, I don't know if they're, exactly leaning towards Usman and Colby as the front runner right now, but I can see them wanting to make that fight, and I can see them putting them as coaches because Colby isn't irritant enough to get people in, draw eyes to watch the season. I think that's going to be the only way that you can kind of keep TUF going, is to be able to have the characters like that to hold it up, because I'm in agreement with you. I know I had watched The Ultimate Fighter, but ultimately what I would do is I would DVR it and I would only watch the fight. I would fast forward throughout all the only thing I would watch is like if they had some type of coach's challenge, or the drafts at the beginning to see which person is on which team. Mm-hmm. But other than that, as far as the drama in the house, I skip past the whole thing as well, and I would only watch the fight. I think the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series is going to be the future as far as building the UFC talent and everything. I just think TUF is going to be hard to maintain. I think it's more based on Dana White's stubbornness to keep the show going. Is why he wants to keep going with it, because there's no real desire for the show at all.
Here's my issue with the show, is a lot of it, because it being a reality show, it's not real. Shit's staged. Like, the producers would tell X person to do something. Like, there's like shit like that. It's unauthentic to me. And I don't care. Second is, it's like you have to have people on there in a certain tier. Like, you have to have the clowns of the show that just get on everyone's nerves, that aren't that good of fighters. And then you actually have to have the good fighters that are going to win the show. And because of that, you kind of almost know who's going to win the show if you just go look up the fighters. I remember one name that stuck out to me. I watched maybe 3 or 4 episodes of this, and the dude's name was Delani Jones. I don't know where he's at now or anything about the dude, but I remember him being on TUF, and he just talked so much shit and then got his ass beat. And that's all that I remember about that guy. But that's what TUF is. It's a platform to get noticed. That's really what it is, and not much more than that unless you win.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think it's going to be hard for them. What's that?
Do you remember Delani Jones?
No, I don't. But
he always talked about how much money he had, and he always wore a chain, and that was his thing.
Man, because a lot of times, a lot of the fighters, unless they're like the top ones in the season or something like that, I don't really recall them too much until I see them again. But yeah, I think as far as the future, I think it's going to be really tough to, no pun intended, I think it's going to be tough to maintain the Ultimate Fighter. But I think if they can kind of get one kind of last good hoorah out of it, maybe with a intense rivalry like Colby and Usman, or Usman and Masvidal, or it doesn't even have to be them. I think you just get one last good season out of it and call it quits. But Dana's pretty stubborn about it, and I think he's going to try to keep it going as long as he can.
I believe you. I don't know if I'm hearing things incorrectly, but it sounds like your daughter is next door with her tablet on full blast, So that's pretty much all the time that we have today, though, guys. We've been going at it for about an hour and a half now, longer than what I expected. I was kind of telling him right before this started I wasn't really feeling it today, but it almost seemed like it added more fire to the show. I was more passionate about the topics just a little bit. So that's all we have today for you guys. Remember, if you watch this entire video, make sure you put a thumbs up on it. Give us your support. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, what are they doing, Dorian? Come on now. What are you doing? Subscribe to the channel. Help us out. Help us grow. Share this with everyone. That's one thing that we haven't been asking is for you to share this. But if you think that someone will enjoy this show as much as you did or more, please share it with them. Help the channel grow. That's all that we got today, guys. Anything else, Dorian?
Nah, good pod today. That's what I was gonna say. I know you said you didn't really have the energy for it, and I was kind of feeling the same way, but still came in, and as soon as the countdown hit and we got rolling, we started feeling good. So, yeah, good pod today.
Definitely, man, definitely. Not too many complaints on my side, but I'm going to get out of here. We're going to play some UFC 4. I got to show you some of my new techniques that I've been working on. But that's all that I got. That's all the Dorian's
I got to maintain my Division 20 status.
Yeah, top 500 in the world right there at UFC 4 on PlayStation 5. I'm just kind of here rambling here at the end. I bet many people have already cut it off. Anyway, that's it for us, guys. Stay golden.